Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. There has been this song that's been circulating the reaction circles recently called Hi Ren by the artist Ren. And it's been brought to my attention and I've been asked to check it out, and I don't know how we could naturally fit it into a theme or, I just thought maybe I could submit my own special selection. That never occurred to me until now. Anyways, though, so we're going to be doing a special Saturday morning reaction. The album is still coming out later today, but we're going to start this off. And I don't know, let's dive into this, I suppose. I have no idea what I'm in store for, but I've been told not to look into it and to go in with no information. So that's what I'm doing. Let's see what Ren is bringing to the table today. Getting that really fat low string on there. Really hammering that in. Very fun embellishments. Nice little turn there. Metric modulation. Ooh, extended too. Extended that chordal exploration. Very neat setup. Yeah. Got a bit of a haunting sound to it. Got those offbeat accents, kind of gives it that bouncy feel.
Hi there, Ren. It's been a little while. Did you miss me? You thought you buried me, didn't you? Risky. Cause I always come back. Deep down you know that. Deep down you know I'm always in periphery. Ren, on your pleased to see me. It's been weeks since we spoke, bro. I know you need me. You're the
really
sheep
nice
on the shepherd,
rhythmic
not your place
cadence.
to lead me. Not your place to be biting off the hand that feeds me. Hi, Ren. I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself since my therapist told me I'm ill. And I've been making some progress lately. And I've learned some new coping skills. So I haven't really needed you much, man. I think we need to just step back and chill. Ren, you sound more insane than I do. You think that those doctors are really there to guide you? Been through this a million times, your civilian mind
I
isn't
love
perfect,
how
you're
the
always being
cadence
lied
shifts
to.
between
Okay,
what I'm
taking
assuming
the
are these
pill,
two
boy,
characters
yourself
or
in the sound
something.
of white noise. Follow this 10-step program, rejoice, all your problems will be gone. Fucking dumb boy. Nah, mate, this time is different, man, trust me. I feel like things might be falling in place. And my music's been kinda doing bits too. Like I actually might do something great. And when I'm gone, maybe I'll be remembered for doing something special with myself. That's why I don't think that we should talk, man. Cause when you're with me, it never seems to help. You think that you can amputate me? I am you, you are me, you are I am we are one. Split in two, that makes one. So you see, you gotta kill you if you wanna kill me. I'm not leftover dinner, I'm not scraps on the side. Oh, your music is thriving, delusional guy. Where's your top 10 hit? Where's your interview with Oprah? Where are your Grammys, Ren? Nowhere. Yeah, but my music's not commercial like that. I never chase numbers, statistics or stats. I never write hooks for the radio, they never even play me, so why would I concern myself with that? But my music is really connecting, and the people who find it respect it. And for me that's enough, cause this life's been tough, so it gives me a purpose I can rest in. Man, you sound so pretentious. Ren, your music is so self-centered. No one wants to hear another song about how much you
Adding
hate
the
yourself.
percussive
You should
palm
be so
hit.
lucky, having me inside you to guide you, remind you to manage expectations, provide you perspective. That thing you neglected, I get it. You wanna be a big deal, next Jimi Hendrix, forget it. Man, it's not like that. Man, it's just like that. I'm inside you, you twat. No, it's not, man. You're wrong. When I write, I belong. Let me break the fourth
I love
wall
the
by
dynamic
acknowledging
shifts
this
in the
song.
music.
Ren sits down, has a stroke of genius. He wants to write
It's
a song
not even
that was
just
not
the
done previous.
vocal
And battle with the
inflection,
subconscious. Eminem
the
did it.
rhythmic
Played on
shifts.
guitar. Plan B did it. Man, you're not original, you criminal.
It's
Rip
also
apart, it's the
how the
pinnacle of your
guitar
success
gets
is stealing
played.
other people's material. Ren, mate, we've heard it all before. She sells seashells on the seashore. Fuck you. I don't need you. I don't need to hear this. Cause I'm fine by myself. I'm a genius. And I will be great. And I will make waves. And I'll shake up the whole world beneath us. That's right. Speak your truth. Your fucking God complex leaks out of you. It's refreshing to actually hear you say it instead of downplay it. Music is all about the creative process, and if people can find something to relate to within that, then that's just a bonus. Fuck you, I'ma fucking kill you, Ren.
Well, fucking kill me then, let's fucking have you, Ren.
I'ma do it, watch me prove it. Who are you to doubt my music? Cause I call the shots, I choose if you die. Yeah, I call the shots and so I choose who survives. I'll tie you up in knots when I lock you inside.
Newsflash. I was created at the dawn of creation. I am temptation. I am the snake in Eden. I am the reason for treason. Beheading all kings, I am sin, with no rhyme or reason. Son of the morning, Lucifer, Antichrist, father of lies.
Dramatic
Mephistopheles,
rise.
in a blender, deceitful pretender, the banished avenger, the righteous surrender when standing in front of my solar eclipse. My name is stitched to your lips, so you see, I won't bow to the will of a mortal. Feeble and normal, you wanna kill me? I'm eternal immortal. I live in every decision that catalyzes chaos, that causes division. I live inside death, the beginning of ends. I am you, you are me, I am you, Ren.
Hi, Ren. I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself, and I've spent half my life ill. But just as sure as the tide starts turning, just as sure as the night has dawned, just as sure as the rainfall soon runs dry when you stand in an eye of a storm. I was made to be tested and twisted. I was made to be broken and beat. I was made by his hand, it's all part of his plan that I stand on my own 2 feet. And you know me, my will is eternal. And you know me, you've met me before. Face to face with a beast, I will rise from the east and I'll settle on the ocean floor. And I go by many names also. Some people know me as hope. Some people know me as the voice that you hear when you loosen the noose on the rope. And you know how I know that I'll prosper? Cause I stand here beside you today. I have stood in the flames that cremated my brain, and I didn't once flinch or shake. So cower at the man I've become when I sing from the top of my lungs. That I won't retire, I'll stand in your fire, inspire that make to be strong. And when I am gone, I will rise in the music that I left behind.
I like the syncopated
ferocious, persistent, immortal like
staccato
you, we're a climate to different sides.
of his singing voice here. Sort of like soaring, no?
When I was 17 years old, I shouted out into an empty room, into a blank canvas that I would defeat the forces of evil. And for the next 10 years of my life, I suffered the consequences, with autoimmunity, illness, and psychosis. As I got older, I realized there were no real winners and there were no real losers in psychological warfare. But there were victims and there were students. It wasn't David versus Goliath. It was a pendulum, eternally swaying from the dark to the light. And the more intensely that the light shone, the darker the shadow it cast. It was never really a battle for me to win. It was an eternal dance. And like a dance, the more rigid I became, the harder it got. The more I cursed my clumsy footsteps, the more I struggled. So I got older, and I learned to relax. And I learned to soften, and that dance got easier. It is this eternal dance that separates human beings from angels, from demons, from gods. And I must not forget, we must not forget, that we are human beings.
All right. So, what do we got here? This is pretty close to um, folk music, which utilizes very similar, if sparse, musicality underneath vocals, and the vocals are the spotlight. They're there to tell the story. They're typically very clearly produced as they were here. We will get to the lyrical analysis in a bit, but I'm telling you already, I don't think I need to pull the lyrics up. I got the gist of it, and that's something that's pretty typical in folk music because the lyrics are king. The story is the purpose. The music is there just to embellish it, to support it. Um, and so the vocals here, the lyrics are exceptionally clear, and it's really easy to hear the story going on. Shout out to both Ren for his pronunciation and enunciation throughout all of this, despite using multiple styles of vocal delivery to ensure that the story was concisely told while still being understandable. And shout out to whoever engineered this. Uh, we got song written, performed, and directed. Cinematographer, lighting, location, camera. Don't have a producer. Well, I can't give a shout out to the producer then, but yeah, whoever they are, big shout out to them for keeping this sounding very clean and clear. I know it's only two instruments. It's not difficult to mix, but it also helps to know what kind of sounds you want to bring out of each note, each strike, each attack, and the balancing of the two instruments so that you can tell the story through both of them. And that's what I want to touch on right now is telling the story through both of our instruments, the vocals and the guitar. The vocals I think are very clear. We have the two voices. One of them is sort of a gnarly, guttural raspiness that utilizes a ton of harsh inflections to create a percussive rhythm to it, which makes a lot of sense given the style. It tends to move towards a rapping element that focuses more on rhythmic cadences rather than notes and harmony. Interestingly, the rhythmic cadences were quite varied in this track, and a lot of them I found were interesting on their own, even without the words and the story around it. I just liked the rhythmic ideas on top of what he was playing on the guitar. Um, and then we also have the right character. I guess this would be your right, facing off to the left, who used a meeker vocal style. Less percussive attacks, less air pressure, less volume, and comes off as a meeker character, which makes sense because we have the more dominant, darker force trying to overcome the meeker, lighter force. And this is what I was talking about with the production as well. Whether he has this full-on growl with a ton of air pressure and confidence and power behind it, or the meeker, less sure of themselves, kind of timid vocal style, the mixing is still loud enough and clear enough on both of them regardless of what's going on around, to clearly hear what they're saying, while still giving them this contrast, this volume difference, this width difference, this power dynamic. A lot of work goes into that, not just on the performance, which again was incredible, but also on the engineering side. So of course we have the story going on in the vocals, but there's also story going on in the guitar, which I think a lot of people might not pick up on, possibly the first time through, maybe even the fifth time through, because this is sort of in that folk pop area where the vocals are king, right? So when you listen into the guitar, there's a lot of really cool inflections that are going on that help differentiate the different styles of storytelling that usually line up with what our vocalist is doing. I pointed out one that I thought was pretty simple, where if you listen to the Meeker voice and you listen to how that Ren plays the guitar, it's a quieter type of playing. It's less heavy attacks. It it kind of wants to go into a legato feel, but doesn't quite commit to it. There's a lack of confidence in the playing itself, and really great acting, I would say, to get into that character and play the guitar as if that character would. It's a lot of control and understanding of how to use your instrument and specifically how to pull out specific sounds from it. We can contrast this heavily with the darker Ren and their use of more attacks per beat, louder attacks per beat, more staccato element to it, and the use of the palm to hit the body of the guitar to create a percussive element to further accent specific beats, giving it this very full bodied, powerful sound to contrast heavily with what the guitar is doing with the meeker Ren. And this is pretty much what makes up probably a good 70% of this track. There are some variations on this. We do get to hear quite a few guitar riffs and licks throughout this, which I thought was a nice twist. Because usually with folk music and even pop music, once you've written something, you just keep reusing it. As long as it fits the intended purpose, there's no reason to change it. And there was quite a bit of variation going on in here, which I quite enjoyed. We also had our intro, and I'm curious about the intro. Storytelling wise, what does it represent? It has a little bit of darkness to it. It starts off with a pretty simple 4-chord progression. We eventually get to hear an expansion of that into an 8-chord progression. We get to hear some flashiness to it. We get to hear some musicianship, a little bit of time to show off as we get these really nice 16th and 8th note flourishes in there. We also get the, what was that? Oh, the metric modulation as we shift from quarter notes to triplets to dotted quarter notes, and we kind of stretch and squash the time of that section without touching the tempo, I don't think. Tempo is actually something we got to talk about. Is now a good time? Yeah, I guess we can just wrap that up. There's a lot of really nice guitar work going on at the beginning, and since all of the music here tells a story, at least from what I understand, I'm really curious what this signifies. It isn't happy, but it is flourishing. It is adventurous. It's maybe it is supposed to be about his younger years, whereas the main conversation is about recent times, and the final 2 minutes of the track is about where Ren is at today. When he stands up and he's speaking towards the camera, like I think that's where he's at today, and kind of showing where he's been, which is the conversation between the two. This would be prior to that, which could be when said he suffers from psychosis, I think. So I'm good. I hope I'm using the right word here, where the psychosis began to creep in, and it was a darkness against an otherwise, I'm going to assume, a younger side of Ren. That maybe there was still a childhood innocence there, and the darkness is supposed to contrast with that fun element, like sort of carefree, lighthearted dance on the guitar. That's my interpretation of the intro. We also got to hear some really cool chromaticism going on. Again, storytelling wise, this was when the darker Ren started to take over the narrative and took a huge chunk of a verse out of the track. And chromaticism is often related to insanity or psychosis, or also malevolence. There's a lot of elements of that in there. In fact, the first thing I thought when we had that rising chromatic line where he took the same lick and just moved it up a half step and then moved it up a half step and then moved it up a half step, um, it reminded me a lot of Stephen Sondheim's approach to the insanity motif from Sweeney Todd, um, and the use of chromaticism and atonality in that idea that's presented all throughout that musical. And I don't know if Ren was influenced by that specific motif. Like I said, it's sort of a common idea to represent those feelings in a lot of media, but that's the first place my brain went to, and I thought that was a really nice nod in there. Especially, again, it just adds extra content and context and contrast. Wow, a lot of the cons in there. Um, to the music, it is a new section. He could have easily went with what he was already doing and decided to change it up a little bit to increase the intensity of that section. Just really smart composition. It is still hyper minimalist, just a vocalist and a single guitar playing polyphonic ideas, but it absolutely works at crafting a story. Um, tempo. We'll work tempo in a second. Next, I want to hit the final minute or so where Ren stands up and is speaking towards the camera with the guitar still before he moves into the spoken word, which I think wasn't part of the song. Maybe it is, but it felt more of a sort of an after song explanation. It's what it felt like to me. The guitar was down, there was no more music, and there wasn't any rhythmic or melodic element to his voice. He was literally speaking at the camera at that point. Um, so my read of that is it's not part of the song itself. It's an extra element part of the video. But while he was standing up with the guitar, you can listen to his voice and the power of it. It is full bodied. It has proper support from air pressure. The music is louder. We have full chords here. We have stacks of chords, which I think is really interesting. After he stood up and became vertical, we also had vertical elements to the music rather than being mostly homophonic with one note at a time, indicating chords but being separated. Now we have chords working together to form, or notes working together to form a whole chord. I think the ideas of working together and becoming whole are not lost on Ren. And I'm pretty sure he specifically chose to move towards these specific chords there at the end. But it also provides a nice peak for the song. As the song has been sort of drifting between these lows and mids, we finally have a really big bombastic moment. Well, as bombastic as a vocalist and a guitarist can be. And so it's a really powerful moment because the music is metaphorical, the lyrics are powerful, the decisions that went into what needs to be here sonically. How should the vocals be presented? What should I be doing with the guitar? How should this sound on an engineering level? All of it comes together to solidify the story. And I think it's just a phenomenal job of doing that. It really is. Um, So I think that wraps up most of the musicality of it. What our instruments are doing and did throughout all the sections of the song and how they come together to support the theme. The last thing I want to touch on here then is tempo. Tempo is really interesting in here. The entire song is, from what I heard, 4/4, but it's a very loose idea of 4/4 because time is a suggestion. When we're inside of a verse, time seems to be solidified. It can stretch a little bit, which I would typically attribute to some sort of retardando or a fermata, um, but it usually snaps back. But the interesting thing is, I think if someone were to transpose this to sheet music, it would be really interesting how they decided to. Actually, it wouldn't. It would just be a fermata. That'd be the easiest way. There are gaps of time occasionally when we switch between our two characters. Um, they do typically run right into each other. They do have different time feels, though. I don't know if I'm 100% accurate on this, but what I felt was very tiny tempo shifts from the darker side of Ren and the lighter side of Ren. um, where the darker side tended to have a little bit of extra tempo to it. Maybe not a lot, 2, 3, 5 BPMs, not a lot at all, but enough to make it feel more energetic, and that would give it the feeling of more power and being in control, having direction and momentum that the lighter, meeker Ren does not. And that sort of slows down and feels like it meanders a little bit. There's also that instance where the meeker Ren uh, made a mistake and had to look at the guitar and get the right fingering and start the line over again, which I thought was a fantastic detail. Um, but also, that section sort of screws up time a lot and technically, in one perspective, pauses the song to fix the mistake and then restarts it a little bit earlier at the beginning of the bar, back at the original tempo. So time is very artistically handled right now, or right here, which makes sense for a one person performance. Having time kind of be free with multiple performers, it can be a mess or it can require a ton of practice to get right. But when you have a single performer, it's really easy to sort of squash and stretch time a little bit and manipulate it to whatever works well artistically. And I think that the little modifications to time throughout here works really well, especially since we sort of did some foreshadowing at the beginning when we did the metric modulation to make it feel like we were stretching time out before we actually changed the tempo little by little throughout the song. Just a really great way to go about introducing that idea first, very in the listener's face, and then sneaking it by throughout the track, and where it doesn't feel odd or out of place because we've already been introduced to the idea of time manipulation. Um, and here's my last thing. If you're new to the channel and you're still here, yes, it's normal for these videos to run this long, and it's normal for me to always have one more thing to say. um, So at the end of the track, Ren's standing up, he's playing the chords, lots of power here. He got done singing his bit, and now he's doing his higher range um, vocalizations. There's no words to it, it's just singing a nice melody against the guitar line. This melody is the same thing we heard at the beginning. I'm I have a theory about this, and if anybody else has one, please let me know in the comments. As always, I'm just some dude on the internet. I don't have authorial intent, I don't have insight into the process. This is just my theory. We hear this same idea at the beginning, and I've already theorized that the intro to the song is childhood Ren, where the darkness of the psychosis has started to manifest but isn't quite in control like it is when we have our back and forth section. And so we have this more upbeat, fancy, joyful, naive guitar playing that represents that youthful exuberance, and just being, having that youthful innocence and the joy of being a kid. And so that higher pitch vocalization, I would think, is an element of being just in the moment, right? Not caring about what tomorrow's going to bring or what you did yesterday. Just you're out in I don't know, a grassy plain and you're singing and running around, just being a kid, right? No worries. That's it right there. It's no worries. That's what I'm trying to get at. And so we bring that back at the end after Ren has discovered what it means to have these elements of himself and has tried to fight them. As he said, there's no winners or losers, there's no war, but he tried to fight the darkness, as he put it, and it didn't work. And now he's found other ways to live with all of these things that are him, and it's less stressful on his life now. And that brings back that childhood innocence or joy or lack of worry, the Akuna Matata of life. And so having the strength and power of the music underneath the motif that comes from the childhood element of the song is such a strong representation of where he's at and the type of connections and advancements he's made in his life and understanding of who he is. It's just a really great moment. It is. Um, yeah, I think that's the end of my breakdown here. Normally at this point we dive into the lyrics, but that's usually just to pick up lyrical themes and tie them to the music, and we've already done that. I'm not a lyricist, so I'm not really good at breaking down each individual line of a track. I'm sure there's other people out there who can do that much better than I. But there's your musical breakdown, I think, of Ren's High Ren. Those are just my thoughts, though. What did you think? Did you enjoy this track? Was there anything that stood out to you that maybe I touched on and didn't get into deep enough, or maybe I didn't get into at all? You have a completely different perspective on things, or you heard something I didn't? Let me know down in the comments. Above the comment section is a description box. In there is a link for Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. You can find my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.